Hello and welcome. I am Deputy Assistant Secretary David A. Vargas for the Real Estate Assessment Center in the Office of Public and Indian Housing. As part of our new charge for improved customer service and to facilitate communication with our clients throughout the United States, we're developing a series of training videos to help you better understand the various aspects of the physical inspection process, from requesting a database adjustment to how to file a technical review, as well as other important topics. These videos will give you the information you need to successfully navigate the REAC's processes. Together, we share a common goal of providing decent, safe, and sanitary housing to the families we serve. Over the past months, we have met with our partners to determine the areas they believe are most in need of clarification. I trust these informational videos, along with our renewed commitment for reliable, replicable, and reasonable inspections, will be just the beginning of the improvements we will implement based on our discussions with you, and will result in a much enhanced experience for you, our partners in public and assisted housing.
Hello, my name is Doug Walters, Real Estate Analyst with HUD's Real Estate Assessment Center. REAC was established to provide HUD with a centralized and standardized way to evaluate the physical and financial condition of the HUD-assisted and insured housing stock of approximately 3,000 public housing agencies and 29,000 privately owned multifamily properties. One of REAC's key responsibilities is to monitor and assess the physical condition of those properties. In this session, we will discuss physical inspection operations, more specifically the physical inspection review process, lessons learned which should better prepare you for success, and timestamp analysis. REAC certified inspectors complete thousands of inspections each year. The Physical Inspection Operations Division of REAC conducts an internal review of every physical inspection report submitted. Once the physical inspections are uploaded to REAC, each inspection receives a two-level review. There are several areas that are reviewed, and we will discuss each in more detail. Property profile errors are the primary reason physical inspections get rejected. This is why the visual verification of the property prior to the beginning of the inspection is so important. There are several sources for property profile. The number one and most important is on-site verification. The inspector will need to verify with REAC's Technical Assistance Center, better known as TAC, any difference between what has been verified and what was downloaded. Another source for reverse auction inspections is the Reverse Auction Award Letter. REAC will provide the contractor with the anticipated profile. The inspector may need to ask the contractor for this information if they don't freely provide it. The inspector can also be proactive by obtaining the profile information from the property when setting up the appointment for inspection. Then you can compare what you were provided in the download and from the contractor with the information the property is providing before arriving at the property. This way the inspector can contact the TAC before going out to the property if there is any difference. It is not unusual to find a difference in the building count, as REAC's definition of a building is different from how others may define a building. When the inspector downloads the inspection, it will most likely have building and unit information if there was a prior inspection. These numbers are based on the prior inspection and should be considered the least reliable. A lot could have happened since the last inspection, such as the property refinancing or paying off the FHA loan, so now the inspector would base the profile only on contractor Section 8 units. Other changes may involve buildings sold or demolished, which would change the building and/or unit count. We can't emphasize enough that the profile data you get in the download will not always be 100% reliable. There are two sources for receiving physical inspection orders. They are from a servicing mortgagee or from a reverse auction contractor. Servicing mortgagee inspections are always multifamily properties. Multifamily properties always have property IDs that have an 800 million number. For servicing mortgagee inspections, you always base your sample on 100% of all the buildings and units because it is an FHA-insured mortgage on the property. Reverse auction ordered inspections can be either multifamily or public housing. Again, you can determine which it is by the property ID. In contrast to the multifamily servicing mortgagee inspections, reverse auction multifamily inspections may only include contract buildings and units in their profile. For example, there may be 100 units in the complex, but only 25 of them receive HUD subsidy through Section 8 contracts. In these cases, the sample would be generated based on the 25 units receiving the subsidy. You base the profile on only buildings with assisted units and common buildings, and the unit profile on only assisted units. If there is a difference in the expected profile from what you see, contact the TAC. There are cases with multifamily properties where, depending on what kind of program they are administering, you may be required to base the profile on 100% of the buildings and units on the property. If it is a nursing home, group home, or assisted living facility, you should always ask if they fall under one of these programs and require 100% inclusion. Sometimes the property site manager may not know, and they insist that they only have 25 contract units. This is a good example of why gathering the profile information before going to the site is to your advantage. The REAC physical inspection score is based to a great extent on the number of sample buildings and units generated. Failure to meet the sample is the second most likely reason an inspection will be rejected. We highly recommend, before leaving the site, you verify in the software by the number that you inspected enough buildings and units. If for any reason you cannot meet the sample number, you must contact REAC's TAC. Multifamily properties have a unique protocol if the property's number of occupied units is less than or equal to 85% of all the units in the profile. You must inspect any vacant unit that appears in the sample. If the occupancy rate is greater than 85%, then you treat the property as you would a public housing property and not inspect any vacant units, but select an alternate unit in the sample. Never inspect vacant public housing units. Offline buildings and units are much more typical for public housing than multifamily properties due to the nature of the funding. Multifamily properties cannot take buildings and/or units offline without written authority from the Office of Multifamily Housing or the field office. The written documentation must be presented to the inspector at the time of the inspection. The documentation must be specific, naming the buildings and units which the property has authority to take offline. If it is not on the list and the occupancy rate is less than or equal to 85%, then it is to be inspected. Comments for deficiencies are currently only made for level 3. The comment must be sufficient to support why the defect is a level 3. Do not copy and paste from the definitions, because this has caused problems with the system being able to upload. On this slide, is the comment provided correct? No. Why not? Because for the deficiency to be a level 3 greater than 10%, for all buildings, more than 10% of the fire extinguishers are missing, damaged, or expired, or there is not an operable, non-expired fire extinguisher on each floor. REAC has the inspection data on every inspection conducted. REAC analysts compare prior inspection data with current inspection data to help in the evaluation of the inspection's credibility. Data such as scores, number of defects, number of NODs, number of NAs, number of buildings and units, etc., can be obtained. Large disparities between inspections raise red flags and alert the reviewers to potential problems. Some examples of this would be large differences in the number of NA observations recorded. NA observations typically remain consistent from year to year. REAC does not have the manpower to inspect every property or perform a field QA of every property. The analysis of the time it takes an inspector to complete an inspection has been extremely useful in the determination of questionable physical inspections. This process is known as timestamp analysis. This analysis technique has expanded the REAC reviewer's capability to complete a more thorough review. Inspection times can vary based on numerous factors, such as size and type of properties, condition of the property, problems with equipment, etc. These factors are taken into consideration during the analysis of the timestamp report. The inspector is given the benefit of the doubt. Often the time disparities can be explained. REAC has completed timestamp analysis on tens of thousands of physical inspections. We have been able to compile a good estimate of the time it should take to complete various different properties in a variety of different conditions. The greatest concern for REAC is that the inspector is spending an adequate amount of time to complete a thorough physical inspection based on REAC inspection protocol. Good inspection practices equal no timestamp problems. If you are thorough and follow the inspection protocol by inspecting all inspectable items, your inspection times will always be sufficient. It is when you start to cut corners that you will run into trouble. Before you leave an inspectable area, ask yourself, did I remember? The two shown in this slide are pretty obvious: mold, mildew, and infestation. But how about these? Test all drains on sinks, including flushing the toilet, testing the water for heat. This alone may take some time. Testing the operation of every window, not just some of the windows, but every window. If the QA inspector comes behind you, he or she will inspect every window, and it will be your misfortune that one of them doesn't work. This is why it's imperative that you test the heating and cooling system operations, test call for aid, all smoke detectors, and GFIs, look for leaks, mold, mildew around drains, etc., etc. In other words, inspect everything per protocol. Finally, some more rules of thumb. You should spend enough time in the inspectable area to record your findings. This is best if completed while you're in the area where the inspectable items are located. This does not mean you need to run check prepare after every inspectable area, but it is a good practice to run it more often than at the end of the inspection. For example, if you are inspecting a mid or high-rise building and there are 3 units to be inspected on this floor, you should complete all 3 units, then run check prepare to ensure you didn't miss anything before proceeding to the next floor. The inspection must be complete and ready to upload prior to leaving the property. As you can see, if you follow the inspection protocol you learned during the inspector training, then there is no reason you cannot have success completing REAC physical inspections. As a REAC physical inspector, you are our partner at HUD and a very important of HUD's mission to provide housing for Americans that is decent, safe, sanitary, and in good repair. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you good inspecting. As always, any questions should be directed to the REAC TAC at 1-888-245-4860.